making the decision to be a lifelong learner. You're hoping that you're planting seeds and making a difference. There were jobs I had where I had bosses that were not healthy. I didn't feel my sense of self-worth because of that incident. When I was 15, I was day raped.
Hello and welcome everyone. This is another exciting episode, rather a real story we are going to unpack for you. And I believe that it's going to touch your heart and it would create a sense of meaning over your life, because this is a real, genuine story that we want to bring together. Are you ready for that? I'm really excited because today I have a very dear guest of mine, a very dear person of mine, and she is Diane Stevenson, having more than 45 years of career. Can you think of? Still, she's such a young and vibrant and moving ahead, moving forward and impacting people's life. That's really amazing. So please help me to welcome today Diane Stevenson in front of you. Diane, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me here. And it's just I don't know how I can have 45 years of career when I'm only 40, but it happens. I'm not sure where to start. And I think, you had mentioned going back through my entire career. But when I look at my career, I have to look at factors that happened before.
All right.
I grew up in a pretty healthy family, but looking back, when I was 15, I was date raped. And I think that affected a lot of my life for a long time until I understood what really happened. And because it allowed me or sent me into places where I didn't feel my sense of self-worth because of that incident. And so there were jobs, they weren't careers, they were jobs I had where I had bosses that were not healthy. So let's just leave it at that. They weren't healthy workplaces. And as I've understood my past and how it affected me, it's allowed me to move forward into a healthier environment. So I've done everything. Like I spent 13 years in banking and I spent years in a chiropractor's office, and I have never, ever stopped learning. Mm-hmm. I think that's what's really key too, is making the decision to be a lifelong learner. I didn't get a university degree until I was in my 40s. I constantly was getting diplomas. I was constantly taking courses. I wanted more. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to stagnate. It just helped me to move forward, to understand me. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that's always been constant in everything that I've done is people.
Okay.
I've always had a job, a workplace where I worked with people. And when I started looking at what would drive me to coaching, there was always that people element. It was always something helping. And even this, you work as a chiropractic assistant, I'm in there, I'm making the people feel comfortable, because they're not always comfortable if they're coming into a chiropractor's office. There's some pain there. So you want them to feel comfortable and safe. When I worked in banking, you get to play with people's money, and not play with it, but you understand. I mean, you're working with people's money. They need to feel safe. There's that safety element behind all of it, and that relationship with my customers. I loved my customers. They were amazing. And I got laid off, and it was financial reasons with the company. They were upset that I was gone. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it made me feel valued, but it made me know that I did my job. I went, when I first moved to Calgary, which was to go to university, I worked as a receptionist, and people were like, a receptionist, they look down on that position. But to me, there's people coming into the business. I need to make them comfortable. I need to know that they're welcome in this organization or being here, because they're here to spend a lot of money. Because it was a company that sold really expensive high-end products. They need to feel safe before they invest. So that being in that position, that's the first face they see when they walk in the door.
True.
So from there, I moved into the mortgage industry, and I started off as an assistant for two partners in this company, and it's the longest I ever held a job. I was there 19 years. I loved it.
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. But they knew they needed an assistant. They weren't sure what they were going to do with an assistant. So together it was a partnership. And we built that position into something that it just kept growing. And I'm so happy that they put their trust in me, but it's moved on to being a friendship. And I think that is really valuable. So the reason I left that company is I decided to coach full time. Like they're in there. So I started working in that company in 2002, left in 2021.
So when, just a pause, when you left, at the time, how old you were? if you want to hear, right? Because pretty much a good amount of years you have spent.
Yeah, I was in my 50s.
50s.
I was in
All
my
right. So at the time you already had around 40 years of experience.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I graduated from high school in 1975. So this year would be a 50-year reunion from high school. Yeah.
So this is 2025.
Yeah.
And the last job you moved out was 2021.
Yes.
From mortgage industry.
Yes.
And by then you had 40 years of experience. Because this is, around 45 years.
A long time,
around 45 years of experience.
Yeah.
Because you're moving 50th anniversary of your work. Wow, that's amazing.
No, of school, yeah.
School, right, after school. And you started working since...
I've worked... Well, I mean, my first job I was 15. And other than when I had my daughter, I wasn't working. I stayed, and even at that, I was home, but I was babysitting. So it's not like I was just a stay-at-home mom. Never just a stay-at-home mom.
It's very important work. It is.
It's critical. So it was a baby that was born after my daughter. So I had two babies basically. It was so much fun. I mean, it was awesome. But we influenced them when they're younger and we established them. So I stayed at home for a while and then I became a single parent. So working wasn't an option. I had to. And then I worked until, I forget how old I was. I went back to college. And I took a couple of years. I'd gotten laid off from that one company I mentioned. And I had a really good severance package. So I didn't have to work. And I thought, I'm going to take this time to be at home and just establish what I really want to do. At that time, and I don't know if the program still exists, through EI, if you didn't have a diploma or a degree, EI would pay you for the 2 years to get a diploma. Like you would just continue to get your EI payments. So I took advantage of that. So it's not that I wasn't working, but I was going to school and I treated it like a full-time job. So I was at school by 8 o'clock in the morning. I was there till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I would have to come home and I had my family. But that paid off. I graduated from that. How old was I? When was that? Early 90s. I graduated. I made the President's Honor Roll. Like it paid. The hard work paid off.
So we can say that it's more than 45 years of experience as of now.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah, right. 50.
And then you have shifted from your mortgage industry to coaching, training, and speaking industry, right? Kind of helping people to realize their potential, to realize the dream. So what really made you to think of, to initiate another new career at that point of time?
Actually, it's really funny because I used to teach fitness kickboxing, and through an organization called CanFit Pro, they had annual conferences and all those emails constantly coming out. I was quite happy. It was so much fun. I miss it. I haven't done it since COVID. But there was an email that came out and it talked about coaching and how coaching was important if you were working with clients. And a lot of things would come out as we see every day, and you see it and you discard it. You delete the email and never think about it again. But coaching stuck in my mind, and it just was, maybe this is something that I should look at doing. And as we know, having education or experience in coaching doesn't mean that you're going to be a full-time coach. I mean, we can take all of those skills that we learn, utilize them in everyday life. We can utilize them in our jobs because it is bettering our people skills for sure. But anyway, that stuck with me. And in 2015 or 16, I don't remember exactly. I keep saying 15. I chose to take the course, and that is where I first met Abe. I was still working full-time in the mortgage industry. And that is where I first met Abe, took his coaching course. Later on, I had the option to do it again because I had a lot of stuff going on my plate. And then early COVID, he chose to start.
So in 2015, you just took the course?
I took the course. I was doing a little bit of coaching, but it wasn't. But it was a whole series of things. I was coaching more people.
Okay. Internally within your organizations or?
Well, no, and then I had clients. And then a whole series of things. And I'm a God person, and it was just things were not going the way that I thought I was losing money basically.
Okay.
So it was like, I just prayed, and I'm like, okay, God, if this is what I am supposed to be doing, help me make some money. Like I just show me that this is the direction I need to be taking.
Kind of you were lost in the feeling wise or the direction?
I was frustrated. And it's not feeling like this is where I really need to be.
Okay.
But like make it clear.
Okay.
And so
you were searching, right?
I was. And then I had, through no fault of my own, I had 5 or 6 deals all fall apart for a variety of reasons. Like I said, that wasn't me, it was circumstances. And I thought, okay, this is it. Like I can't, the way the system, the way the company worked, I had monthly expenses. And if I'm not bringing in any income, the expenses just keep growing. So I thought, okay, this is it. I need to make the change. So I shifted. I gave my notice. It was hard after that many years. And made the move into coaching full time. And then through that, and in all of this, I was teaching a program called Heroes to grade 7 students, which was amazing. And it was Dr. Wayne had some involvement in that, which is, I mean, everything, all of the philosophies here, Dr. Wayne has had a hand in that. It just helped me to grow. And I've had people tell me for a long time that I should be a teacher, but I could never picture myself standing in front of a classroom like that for 10 months of the year, teaching students as much as I loved making a difference. But things like this program helped me to understand that you can make a difference by going in for a fixed period of time, talking to people, and just being that change maker. And so that's where, as I was doing the coaching and then the facilitating opportunity came up, again, I have the opportunity to talk to people, get their input, and ideally, because you don't know the people, because it's only if we're doing a 2-day training, you don't really get to know a lot of them, but you're hoping that you're planting seeds and making a difference. And I love that. And the one thing I found with Heroes is you don't know. You go in and you're planting seeds. It's like apples, and we use that analogy a lot. All the seeds in an apple tree, and you can plant them all. They're not all going to blossom.
Correct.
But I'm in there and I'm planting seeds, and I'm hoping I make a difference.
I want to emphasize one area. When you were searching the meaning of life, kind of lost, right?
Okay.
The deal was not going on your way. You were losing money. That's what you said, right? And at the time, you spent already significant years of your time in your life, the prime time of your career, right? So 30s to 40s to beginning of 50s, right? And then, as you said, you were a God-loving person. You asked God, give me a way, what is actually the path looks like. And then you opted this coaching and training and
Right.
speaking journey, right? And then you lean into that, right? At that point of time, did you thought that this is something that you could do?
Yes.
Were you confident?
I think part of it was when I looked back on everything that I've done, and it's something that anybody that is looking at making a change, what have you done? What did you love about it? What did you hate about it? Because there's things in every job that we don't like to do that has to be done. And take that good, and how can I take what I really loved and turn that into something that I love to do? And even in coaching, there's things that we don't love to do. But knowing that somebody's going to come to me and say, this is what I want to do, or this is where I'm struggling, or whatever it happens to look like, and I can help them create a plan and move forward, and to a point where coaching, depending on the type of coaching, if it's personal coaching, generally it's not a lifetime plan. We're together for a fixed period and you can come back, but I want to know that I have gotten a client to a point where they can say, I don't need you anymore, and that's okay. But please feel free to come back. You've helped me establish what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve, and we've gone a little bit beyond that, which has happened. But I feel like I can move out, sort of like your kids moving out.
Right. And that's okay. That's good.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't want dependence.
Correct.
But no, it's like your children. Sometimes they come back. My daughter moved back home again for a little while. She went through a situation. But they know that they can come back and get more coaching if that's what they need. And I love knowing that. They're leaving in a better place.
So, if I may ask you, right, more than 45 years of experience, what did you learn?
Oh my goodness.
That you are actually now putting into perspective for coaching. Key summaries that, if you are to advise the young Diane 40 years back, so based on this learning, you would give advice, right, to young Diane, 20 years.
I think one of the things that first came to mind when you said that was, love yourself, you're valuable. Because I think, based on circumstances, and I mentioned when I was 15, I was raped again in my early 40s, but I was in a better place. And so then I could recover from that. So we're not responsible for what other people do to us. We are responsible for what we do and how we move ourselves forward. And I've talked a lot about forgiveness, and forgiving others is critical, but we have to forgive ourselves. And that is the most important person we can ever forgive.
How easy or how difficult it is to forgive myself or oneself?
It's hard. It's hard because we tend to beat ourselves up. I should, and I tell people don't should on yourself, but I should have. I should stop. I still catch myself, but stop. You either are going to or you're not. Don't should. It's like I should go to the gym. I'm either going to go to the gym or I'm not going to go to the gym. Stop shoulding on yourself. And when circumstances happen, I can remember years ago I was at a conference and somebody said, and I was so angry when I heard this, you are where you are in life because you chose to be. And the reason that made me angry was I didn't choose to be sexually assaulted. I didn't choose a lot of the things that other people did to me. The choice I made was to be in a certain spot at a certain time. That's my involvement. I can't control what other people do, but that's what I had to understand. I chose to be in that spot, but I didn't choose the rest of it. So once I could understand that, it was, oh my goodness, it was so insightful. It was such a learning thing for me. It was impactful. So I can't blame myself for what somebody else did. That's where I need to forgive myself. I forgive myself for choosing to be in that spot at that time. And I the rest I have to let go. I need to forgive them. And I have.
Is it the reason that you are doing the course, like letting go, moving forward?
It's a part of it, a large part of it.
Okay.
Because when you look through the material, it's what has happened to me, what's happened for me, because life isn't all bad. One of the things talks about glasses, and it's quite funny because when I did it this last time, I have multiple pairs of sunglasses. So I'm putting them different on. So I have this pair of sunglasses for this and this pair of sunglasses for this. But this is how, even in our lives, I can look at this workplace, being in this office, through one filter or one lens. I can go home and look at it from a different lens, depending on the people we're working with. I can go visit my mom and dad, who, by the way, are still alive, even though I am in my 60s. And that's a different filter, right? Because they're all different relationships. The outside world has its own filter. So that was really important. And because it's the first time I've done that. And I asked and they said, no, like that was impactful. That helped me to look at things differently. And then, a big part of it is, how do we let go? What are the things that we do? How can we say, okay, the past is the past. We can make a choice to stay there or not. And that's the moving forward part. I'm going to let go of my past. I'm not going to let it prevent me from becoming the person that God intended me to be. So I'm going to step forward into that future.
That means accepting the past, right? What has happened, right? At this point of time, I cannot change that situation or circumstances. Rather, what has happened, it's better to accept it and let go the emotions and trauma which is actually created that scar inside the heart and mind, right? So that's the emotion you're talking about, letting go.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I know people, and I've talked to a few people with PTSD. That is not easy stuff to let go of. But as long as you're making those efforts to move forward, it's not going to happen overnight, because what happened to you didn't happen overnight.
Correct.
It's making those attempts. And I think the other thing too is, as long as we can look at ourselves and say, we may not be where we want to be, but I was here, and I'm not here, but I'm here. So I have made progress. So let's take a look at the progress we made and say, this is my goal. This is ultimately where I want to be. But as long as I'm taking those steps and moving forward, that's what I have to look at. And that's where I have to congratulate myself to say, I'm not where I was. I know where I'm going. And sometimes it's like, we've all seen them. The progress isn't like this. It's like this. But we get here. And maybe this isn't ultimately where we want to be. Maybe that's changed a little bit as we've grown. And we have to accept that as well. Because sometimes goals change as we change.
So now, how do you evaluate yourself at this point of time?
I'm really good at beating myself up still. I haven't arrived. I take a look at where I've been. I take a look at where I am. And even in terms of, and for some people, sales is hard for me to pick up that phone and make the phone calls. But I can measure progress because I have a list. And if I can check names off my list, I can evaluate. Not everybody's going to say yes, and I know that. And that's kind of that little fear thing that's stuck in the back of your head, because you would love everybody to say yes, because you know they need what we have to offer. But a no is not always a no. As you well know, a no is quite often not right now.
Next opportunity.
Yep. Yep.
In the last 5-6 years, you are with Flourishing Coaching, right? Even though you have done this training program 10 years back.
Yeah.
Right. So how impactful the Flourishing Coaching was in your life so that you are stuck or you are continuing this journey and you are creating meaning out of it? Could you just unpack this part?
I think I've always grown. I've always been, and that's where that lifelong learning comes in, is I've always been looking for growth opportunities. But this has accelerated it in a lot of ways, because I can go back and I have that material in front of me that I can go back to at any time and say, okay, this is an area that I'm struggling in. I have so many tools that are not only there for my clients, they're there for me. And I think that's what we have to realize. It's great to go through a training and we do our experiential learning, and that's impactful. I mean, that makes a really big difference to say, okay, all right, I'm seeing this in myself now, or this is maybe a growth area or an opportunity area, whatever it happens to be. But I love going back and saying, okay, I can say this is where I was, this is where I'm going. I use everything and I do everything because I can say, you're my client, and I can say, I've done this. This isn't easy, but this is where I was and this is where I am now. This is going to benefit you. And did that answer your question? I'm kind of
right. What do you see now yourself in the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Oof, I don't even want to think 20 years. Because I really, I am in my 60s and I am looking.
Growing.
I am still growing.
Learning and impacting.
As much as I love doing this, I don't want to be doing it full time in 20 years. Maybe in 10 years. I mean, I want to be looking at doing things part time. But that's part of the growth and the building, right? Is to say, okay, I've established this. I've built my business. And I can continue, and I am really selective about who I work with, but I can be more selective about my time and free up. And I'm pretty free now. If my husband wants to go on a cruise, we're going on a cruise, right? So that's good. But seriously, and it's been on my mind a little bit more, how long do I really want to work full time? Because I have grandkids and I love to go visit my grandkids, and I like to visit my parents who are not getting younger, and to have the freedom to do what I want pretty much when I want. And I'm still shooting for that. I love this. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing too. I don't want to retire because I'm loving it.
So life is an opportunity that we live once, right? So what makes more sense of meaning and belongingness about this life to you?
Well, if I'm talking in terms of priorities, I mean, God first, and then my husband, and then my family, my kid, my daughter, my grandkids, my parents, family, friends. And realistically, when we've got that, we don't need anything else. Like, if we have a rich life with the people who are part of it, what more do we really need? Money. I mean, realistically, we got to pay for all of our stuff we're doing with our friends and family, but we don't need millions and millions of dollars. I mean, my husband and I live in a nice house. I could live in a smaller house. So possessions don't mean a lot to me. I don't need a fancy car, even though I was blessed to get a new one. I'm quite content. I think that's why, is because I have all of that in my life now. And I've been thinking, okay, I need to phone this friend and get together with them and get this together. And that to me is most important, is being with friends and family and having that relationship with them.